they're getting so pushed by ESPN/Fox, and I kind of love that. Like,
Yeah.
that they have a real, God, The Rock is just on fire, right? You're doing this, and then, coming back to you know, this whole run with WrestleMania. It's
What a
just,
segue, Robbie.
you
Good
know,
Lord. You are such a professional podcaster, dude.
it's it's been really cool to watch him do, this whole thing, this run. I I kind of thought, I don't want to say he's too old to do it, but it's different when you're just like coming in on these one-offs, right? And you do these one-off, things. It's another thing that he was on so many of the shows, leading up to WrestleMania. And I have to commend him for putting in the work, the workouts, just meanwhile running these other companies, like he's one of the owners of the UFL, and he's one of the people that are on the board of this joint company that that wrestling and the UFC is under, right?
Yep. See,
So
he's on the board at TKO.
yeah, so the fact that he's able to do both of those things and be a movie star and be able to be full time in it. I mean, honestly, I don't want to speak too much ill of a former champion, but he seemed less part time than Roman Reigns. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I felt like I saw him just as much, if not more, and then, and so that is impressive at Rock's age and how long he had stepped away from it. It's one thing if this is all you were doing, but it's another thing. I was watching the press conference, which I'm so happy they put the press conferences up on Facebook, and seeing Triple H's response to what The Rock meant in this run to him. What I thought was really interesting of how hard that he works on his body and the time, and then hearing The Rock in his press conference talk about how he put a gym in every one of the houses that he was staying, or nearby every one of the houses, and had many previous, wrestlers and other wrestlers come and train with him. And, people who think, and my wife is included in this, that this is just, it's all scripted, blah, 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 blah. It is. But so is theater, which is her favorite thing in the world, and so for me, you still have to put in the work. You still have to be in shape. You still have to play these parts and not get injured. I mean, these are
Yeah.
some incredibly athletic people jumping off these ropes and banisters and through things. And yes, things are staged. And yes, things collapse and they're not, it's not like you're actually going through like metal beams. But you still have to train to be able to do this right, to sell it right, to be able to create this atmosphere and this energy that was all like leading up to this incredible WrestleMania. But you should speak on some of your thoughts, and then we can get into some of your favorite matches and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Well, first off, in your Twitch chat, another someone who has been supportive of my podcast, the No Spots podcast, Six Shot is here for the first time. So I want to say hello to Six Shot.
Welcome on in.
But yeah, you're right on the money. Is that even though this is all like scripted and staged or whatever you want to call it, no wrestling fan will accept it being called fake because it's not fake, because a lot of the strikes, a lot of the hits with weapons, a lot of the going through tables or bumps, they're not fake. Those actually hurt. They actually feel those through the performance when it comes to that. But this past weekend was absolutely the main reason why now is a great time to be a fan of professional wrestling. Okay, because WWE for the longest time, when a certain perverted old man was in charge, it was sports entertainment. But now that he's gone, because now it's been exposed that he's a dirty old man, it is professional wrestling. They have gone on record, on the microphone, on commentary, calling it professional wrestling, in press conferences, in promos. It's professional wrestling. The WWE stands for World Wrestling Entertainment. The key word in there is wrestling. And this past weekend, the wrestling was on full display with SmackDown on Friday, with NXT Stand and Deliver Sunday midday, with WrestleMania Saturday and WrestleMania Sunday, and then even tonight with Monday Night Raw, the Raw after WrestleMania. Professional wrestling is back in this universe. And what a time to be a wrestling fan. What a freaking time to be a wrestling fan with this happening. It is absolutely amazing. And it, for many years, I felt ashamed of being a wrestling fan because of, they wanted to be sports entertainment. They wanted to just entertain people and stuff like that. But nowadays, they're actually being professional wrestlers. And it's great because they realize that their competition, which is AEW, All Elite Wrestling, was already being professional wrestlers since they were started in 2019. They're about to go into their fifth year. Okay. TNA Wrestling, same thing, professional wrestling. MLW, Major League Wrestling, professional wrestling. New Japan Pro Wrestling, professional wrestling. Stardom, professional wrestling. There are all these wrestling promotions around the world that have been professional wrestling, while WWE has been sports entertainment for nearly 2 decades. Right? Not really 2 decades, but almost a decade and a half. Right? And so it's great to see that Triple H, in his role as the chief content creator, has brought back professional wrestling to the WWE. It's so great to see, and it's great to see that he's getting his flowers for that. Paul Heyman, during his Hall of Fame speech on Friday, said that, because a lot of the guys that he managed, they were called Paul Heyman guys. He calls himself a Paul Levesque guy. That's his real name. It's Triple H's real name. He calls himself a Paul Levesque guy because of the fact that Triple H has ushered in a new era that's been long awaited and highly anticipated. And we're finally getting it. And now all we can do is sit back and enjoy the ride that is the return of professional wrestling in a place that was known for sports entertainment.
They set this up as a really great launching point. There was all these stories that, they've been building and building and building, and sub stories and sub context. And the one thing that I felt was missing was the switching of the titles. For the last couple of years, a lot of the same people have held a lot of the same titles. And I get that. But I loved back in the day with wrestling where, like, even in a non-pay-per-view situation, you felt a title, defense meant something, like where it's like it really could go down today. And I think it was exciting, well, especially with the second day, and having that world heavyweight title go, and then the cashed in right away, lost again, because I love that where you just don't know where it's going to go next, right? I do kind of feel bad for the Scottish Warrior, but just because it's kind of like a butt of a joke at this point. But um it's interesting to me. At least you can go into a SmackDown or a Raw thinking, hey, this title defense that's not a part of a pay-per-view might mean something, right? And for a while now, I just felt like any bit that had Roman in it, it was guaranteed. I thought they were trying to gun him for that, the Hogan, longevity thing. We've talked about that in the past. And
Yeah.
um
Well, here's the funny thing, Robbie, is that he did overtake a record of Hogan's. It wasn't as long as reign as WWE or WWF champion. Roman Reigns, after Sunday night, now has the record for the most WrestleMania main events in history with 9. Hogan has 8.
mhm.
Hogan has 8. Roman Reigns now has 9. So that's a record that they were able to, you know, get past. I was so sure. I'm not gonna lie. I was so sure they were going to not complete the story this year to try to get Roman to surpass Hogan and get to third longest reign as WWE champion. But thankfully, They knew what the fans wanted. They knew that the fan backlash was going to be real if they didn't finish the story on Sunday night, and so they did. And I'm going to tell you something. I I was doing the live reactions to WrestleMania Sunday, and when that happened, I was so overjoyed. And then just watching the scene unfold, I got really emotional. Like I had to mute myself and let Sith and one of our supporters who we brought on for the live reactions, Hector, just do the talking because I was just so overcome with emotion because Cody Rhodes did that for his father, and I'm still raw from losing my father 4 months ago. So I was really emotional, and I knew I was like, I needed to mute, and I needed to let them talk, and I needed to turn up the volume to hear what was going on and feel what was going on. And um, I saw a video earlier on Monday, the day that we're recording this, and it was the entirety of the aftermath after Cody pinned Roman, and when Cody had his mom in the ring and he handed her the championship belt, I legit cried. I legit cried because I was like, wow, that was such an emotional moment for anybody who's watching. I legit cried because he said that on this road to trying to finish the story that once he did finish the story and won the championship, he would hand it to his mom in a tribute to his dad who never got to hold that championship legit. And so seeing that moment, when I saw that moment live, I got emotional. And then replaying that moment again, I got emotional again. Because again, I just lost my father 4 months ago, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm trying to, because one of the things that me and my father always used to talk about is me advancing at my job. And I'm just waiting for the day that I finally get that advancement and I can go to his gravesite and say, Dad, I did it. I finally advanced. And I know I'm going to be very, very emotional when that happens. I'm getting emotional now, just thinking about it, you know? But WrestleMania Sunday, this is something that we've talked about on the podcast is that the last three WrestleMania Sundays have not been the best. They've been very subpar at best, whereas WrestleMania Saturday has been the best part of the weekend. This year, WrestleMania Sunday was not just on par, but slightly above par of WrestleMania Saturday because of the fact that you had an awesome triple threat match for the US title. Logan Paul retained, but it was really good. Bailey getting a measure of revenge against the very faction that she created and becoming the new women's champion. The first time she's won a women's championship in 3 years. The last time she was a women's champion was in 2021 before she tore her ACL and lost the year of her career. Um, and then you had a Philly street fight in which you had Snoop Dogg on commentary, which was awesome. I got to go back and rewatch it because I had the volume very low, so I couldn't hear his commentary. But I hear he was really good. But then you had Bubba Ray Dudley, a Hall of Famer in Philly, the home of ECW, refereeing a street fight. And then he ended up putting on the glasses. They did the whole gimmick of the "What's up?" And then they did the gimmick of the "Get the tables." And then Montez Ford, like just flying in the heavens and driving down on Karrion Cross with the frog splash and getting the pin and getting the win for the Pride. WrestleMania Sunday for once was absolutely an amazing show, but the whole weekend was absolutely amazing. I really wish I could sit here and tell you one or two favorite matches because it's really hard for me to pick one or two matches that were my favorites from not just the 2 nights of WrestleMania, but Stand and Deliver, which started the weekend off really at 11:30 a.m. They had a really good show and they had their highest attendance record for a NXT PLE, which I mentioned earlier on. So it was a really great weekend. Over 201,000 people came to the Wells Fargo Center and the Link to watch professional wrestling return.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I just like hearing you and Sith, go through each of the matches. I thought was a ton of fun, and so I highly recommend anyone who doesn't. note to go watch along with you guys, and even if you're gonna pause it and watch it and sync it up, I think it's a lot of fun, and I just love hearing your guys' insight, especially over the years. And you guys have covered so many different wrestling promotions, so I feel like some people are just in one camp or another. They're just WWE people, they're just AEW people, and I think it's helpful that you guys follow all of them. So I feel like there's not necessarily an inherent bias there, and I think that that's really important when covering these sorts of events. And so when you guys say it's one of the best ever, I feel like it means more than somebody who's just a Cody fan, for example, who just finally, or even like me, who's like a Roman hater, and so like I just, yeah,
not to cut you off, Robbie, but Six Shot just put in the chat about a VOD. Thanks to Robbie, who's one of the moderators for our Twitch channel, VODs are now active and published. So the live reactions to NXT Stand and Deliver and both nights of WrestleMania are currently available to watch on demand on our Twitch channel. So if you want to go back and watch our reactions to the 3 events that took place this weekend, you can do so right now. They will be up all for the next couple of weeks because we're gonna be
Oh,
off for a
good. You were able
week.
to bring back the past broadcasts that were turned off. That's great.
Yes, yes. So
Awesome.
those bots are going to be up on our Twitch channel all the way up until the 19th of April because we will be back streaming the season 6 premiere of the podcast where we will recap WrestleMania weekend and get ready because there are going to be 2 pay-per-views coming up that weekend. So wrestling is in a great place right now, and we also I can't wait to talk about Sakura Genesis in New Japan Pro Wrestling is really on fire as well. They just had Sakura Genesis on the same day as the start of WrestleMania weekend. Though it was like mad early in the morning. Tetsuya Naito was able to retain his IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against his fellow stablemate Yota Tsuji, who won the New Japan Cup to get that opportunity. But then afterwards, Jon Moxley, AEW's Jon Moxley, came out and turned their non-title singles match into a title match that's taking place at Windy City Riot this upcoming Friday. That's taking place at the Wintrust Arena in Chicago. So it's going to be at least 2 more another title match taking place at Windy City Riot. Jon Moxley versus Tetsuya Naito for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Plus, New Japan is going back to Taiwan for the first time in 8 years for Wrestling World 2024, where the next never openweight 6-man tag team champions will be crowned in a one-night tournament after they were vacated after Okada left New Japan to go to AEW. So right now, wrestling is in such a great place. It's in such a great place. It wasn't like that for like 5 or 6 years ago. It wasn't in such a great place as it is right now. It's so much wrestling out there, not just the major promotions, but the indie promotions. The COVID-19 pandemic almost ruined professional wrestling, but it endured. It was resilient, and now wrestling is in such a great place right now that if you're not a wrestling fan, now is a great time to become one.
Yeah, I mean, it's revitalized for me, and I know for so many others, a love of wrestling. To the dismay of my wife. But because I do cover a lot of sports already, but I've loved our conversation, especially over this last year, bringing it back into the fold and having you be able to break it down for me and being able to lurk in your streams and listen to them and understand wrestling and have you guys break it down. I think that you and Sith do a great job, and you got a whole team over there as well, and great loyal following. And I know I talked to Dujanet. I was hoping he could be on tonight, but he's very busy, doing a whole host of different stuff from racing to other stuff. I
We
still want to.
were I was so lucky. Myself and Sid were so lucky to be on his podcast last week to talk about WrestleMania because he does cover wrestling occasionally on his podcast, the Not Bland Show, and stuff like that. So it was great to be on with him. The only problem was is that my computer didn't want to cooperate because Chrome is ass now with StreamYard, which is why I had to download a new browser to be able to do the podcast without any issues. But it was great to talk. It's always great to talk wrestling with DJ. He's as much he has as much knowledge when it comes to wrestling as myself and Sith and Sage and Donnie and Dem and everybody that's on my team and everything like that. So it's always great to have him, to get input from him and to talk to him about it because he's so knowledgeable. Everybody, thinks a DJ thinks he's a football guy, and then they listen to his podcast and he's a racing guy and a football guy, but no, he's very, very knowledgeable when it comes to wrestling. Like I could I could literally sit and have a conversation with DJ. Like we could sit and do a podcast together, me and him, and it could be at least a 2.5, 3 hour podcast, especially if we include Sif, because we know Sif can talk. Okay,
For
Sif can
sure.
talk. You know,
It's so fun just to look back and to see the true, how we've come together, become, this radio network that, we just started as just a couple of us, but, Sith was on our show the first couple of seasons, and, you work with Dujanet now on the other thing, it's just so cool to watch. You have a whole team behind you. I've got a team, behind this show now, and it's kind of inspiring to see how far you've come in, 6 years, and now we're on season 9 here, and it's a cool thing to when you sit back and realize what we've been able to build here.
absolutely, absolutely. It's been great. It's been great to cultivate so many of these friendships and things of that nature. And I mean, and also one thing to think about is that even CP3 is a casual wrestling fan and stuff like that. So you know, people don't realize is that wrestling is universal. You could either be a casual
I'll tell you right
fan.
now, champ, since we started talking about wrestling, our numbers went up 10 viewers. So I'm just like, in percentage wise, it was a lot, so like
I'm
it was.
just I'm saying I'm telling you,
Yeah.
wrestling is universal. It's a universal language. Even if you only watch it here and there, you still understand it as opposed to someone like myself and Sid where we watch hours and hours of wrestling per week to do a podcast, okay? It's something that everybody can enjoy if they want to, if they have an open mind to enjoy it. That's why I want to talk to Liz, Robbie, because I could get her to at least want to watch a show just
Uh,
to see.
Good luck. I
Listen,
it's just it's so
I can
funny
be
to me.
quite persuasive. I'm not saying. I'm just saying I can
All
be
right,
quite
I'd like
persuasive
I'd
and
like
can
to
break
see
it
this
down.
debate. I feel like we need to air it, like, because she's it'd be entertaining. A little,
Listen, I've met
little,
your wife in real life, so
yeah,
listen, I think I have something of a rapport to be like, listen, let
yeah,
me just break it down for you, okay?
right. Well, I screw ourselves over because I keep on trying to equate it to theater, which she hates that analogy, but I still stand very strongly by it. Real
Mm-mm.
quick scoring
No,
update.
what you what what you need to equate it to, a lot of people call it male soap opera. If she's in the
Right.
soap operas, then that'll probably bring her in a little
I
bit.
think she's less into soap operas, really into theater. That's why but I feel like it doesn't, because I still think it's very theatrical. I love, the lighting, the choreography, the pageantry, yes, there's a script and there's a thing, but that going back to what I was so excited about is I feel like The Rock and Triple H had an idea when he came back, a couple months back, of where this was gonna go, and they really listened to the fans and social media, and they completely rewrote an entirely different script for how this was all going to go. I really think that The Rock was going to take the championship from, it was going to be a head of the table thing. It was going to be a battle for who's, in charge of that. It was going to be, them versus each other. And I think, honestly, maybe even Cody trying to go for the world championship, right? I think that it could have been a totally different story initially, but then they saw how much people really wanted this, and
Yeah.
I think that they were able to sit there and, write an incredibly interesting story. Real quickly, UConn is subbing out their players. They're up 75-60. This is a foregone conclusion at this point. It's
Let's
there's
go.
36 seconds left here.
Let's go. But back to what you were saying about that. Yes. So here's the difference between the current era that we're into now and the past era with that dirty old man is that Vince would have put his feet in the sand and been stubborn and would have kept with Rock versus Roman, despite the fact that everybody hated it. He would have just stuck with it. Whereas Triple H understands that fans enjoying the product means more revenue for the company. And he understood that, which is why they pivoted back to Cody finishing the story at WrestleMania. I'm telling you, if you did not watch WrestleMania and hear that reaction when Cody hit that third crossroads and got that 3 count, then you don't understand the passion of pro wrestling. I mean, Samantha Irvin, who was the ring announcer for the entire weekend, entire WrestleMania weekend, WrestleMania both nights, who's the Raw ring announcer, she was so overcome with emotion she could barely get out the ring announcement announcing that he won the match. That's how passionate this is, and that's why I respect Samantha Irving, because yes, she's a ring announcer, but she's a wrestling fan. They've made it a weekly thing to post shorts on their social media of her reactions to certain things because she's such a passionate wrestling fan. I'm going to be looking on WWE social medias to see her reaction to Cody Rhodes finishing the story.
Oh yeah,
I want
it's
to see
already
it.
up. I've already watched it. It was very powerful.
I'm going to look for it now.
Yeah,
While you talk, I'm going to look for it now.
yeah, it was it's really cool that they do that, because there's obviously like some people are gonna be like, who cares what she has to, think about it. But I think I love that they really care about what the fans thought about it and they really thought this thing through. And for me, like just I love the cameos. The only thing I would have done slightly differently is I love that Undertaker made an appearance. I wish that he had somehow put like the old school Undertaker garb on. Just like what I'm saying? Like
I don't even care about that. The fact
I
that
know,
we
but
got
he
a
just looked
gong,
like
the
somebody
lights
who's like,
out, he came out, he chokeslammed The Rock, who he's chokeslammed plenty of times. I
yeah.
was fine with that. I was marking the
I
hell
just
out.
wanted the
I
old
found it.
school
Give me a minute.
the old school Undertaker vibe and
Oh,
stuff
the
like
look on
that.
her face. Oh my god.
Actually, hold on. You have it on your computer?
No, I have it on my phone. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, look at her face.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually pull it up real quickly just so people can see what we're talking about. And I think I can do this. Share screen and Google Chrome. That was under.
Oh no. Oh man.
Uh,
That is awesome.
here. Hold on, let me switch this up
Oh,
here.
that is awesome.
And this screen.
Wow.
So it's doing some quick adjustments on the fly. Um, and yeah, it was
I just watched it on their Instagram.
yeah, but I saw it earlier on
Wow.
yeah, we have to go back
That was
to
that was
the
incredible. Just you could tell the emotion that she had in that one. That was incredible. That was the same emotion I had. Is that the that
here it is.
I felt that I knew what I wanted to talk about. This
Oh wait, no, this isn't
whole
it.
that's not it.
business.
That's from the night.
Oh yeah, sorry. I swear I saw it earlier. Hold on.
Now you gotta have to keep scrolling.
Yeah, they have so much stuff on here. No, this is from a day ago. It should still be there.
Now you gotta keep scrolling. Like I said, I think it'd be better if you go on the Instagram because I was able to
All
find
right.
it easily on the
Yeah, I'll do
Instagram.
it that way.
But yeah, that was wow. Because
Yeah,
I heard her voice. I heard her voice when it happened.
here.
But nope, that's from the night. Keep going, 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 keep going,
God, they
keep
put a lot
going.
of content out.
Keep going.
Oh,
Stop, right there, middle, right there. Yep,
there
yep.
it is. Yep.
Look at her. That is passion, and she's still trying to do her job through that passion, that emotion. This is pro wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think y'all realize that. This is pro wrestling.
Yeah, she is. It's pretty awesome. Um, but anyway, let me switch my screens back. But yeah, it was very powerful, and I just, I loved. we'll talk a little bit just about, obviously Cody Rhodes finished his story, but I thought it was a important person because you have to end Roman's story the correct way too, because you can't have that long of a run just go out with a dud, like you can't just sort of like you couldn't lose that on a SmackDown, like it just like at that point it needed to go out on something huge, but I am happy that it will usher in a time period where I feel like Cody, my thought is, we'll see if it comes true, that Cody will defend it more often, coming up. And I know that Roman has had a lot of health troubles, and so this will give him an opportunity to step aside a little bit and deal with
There's
those.
actually video circling around social media of camera footage showing Roman embracing Paul Heyman at the top of the ramp and getting emotional afterwards. And there's also someone else that pointed out that when he was getting pinned, he actually smiled because I guess he understood the magnitude of, passing the torch and stuff like that. So there's all of that like really flying around the internet if you want to look for that. But it really accentuates the whole moment. And TNT
I was so happy
Sports,
that he's gracious in defeat because honestly, for me, that sells him and puts him over more. It actually gives him an opportunity to come back as a face potentially down the road because he
yeah,
did that. Where I feel like if he's a whiny bitch about it, then it kind of changes the narrative if that makes any sense. Like I feel like more people can respect him in this moment, and then you know, I don't know. Does that
yeah,
make
no,
sense to you?
no, it makes perfect sense because Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, who refereed the Philadelphia Street Fight on WrestleMania Sunday, he's one of the hosts of Busted Open Radio, which is a wrestling show that's on Sirius XM, and he even said that a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, they did A&E doc on Roman Reigns, which kind of came off as them trying to make him a babyface again. Um, and that could be a good setup in case The Rock decides that he wants to go after the so-called the tribal chief and keep Rock as a heel and have Roman be a face. Because one of the things Roman mentioned in his press conference is that even though he's in remission from leukemia, it's a lifelong thing because there's no cure for it. He has to take medication to keep himself in remission.
Yeah.
That's something to make him sympathetic, is that yeah, he's got this disease that if he stops his medication or anything like that, it could come back and it could be life threatening. And then they bring out this doc and put him in such a positive light that it could almost make him a babyface. I mean, hell, up until the road to WrestleMania, he was still getting babyface pops, even though he was the bad guy. He was still getting pops all around town, all around the country, but he was still a bad guy. So it'd be easy to keep the tribal chief persona, but he can get over as a babyface. The only thing though is that Paul Heyman would have to. By the way, Paul Heyman is now a Hall of Famer. Would have to be able to get over as a babyface as well, which I think he could do because Paul Heyman is one of the best on the microphone as well. Robbie, one of the things I want you to do as homework, I want you to go and watch Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame speech.
Mhm.
I'm gonna quote.
I watched part of it already. Yeah.
Well, I want you to watch his Hall of Fame speech. I'm gonna quote one line from his Hall of Fame speech that really got a pop out of me. He said, and I quote, "If you thought that the spirit of ECW died in a bankruptcy court in 2001, well, you can suck my effing dick." And he didn't say effing, by the way.
I'm sure
And
you did.
they blurted it out, but you get the message that he said, and I got to end quote, but you get the message that he was saying. Paul Heyman had one of the best Hall of Fame speeches I've ever heard because he said he didn't write nothing down. He wanted to read the room with his speech. He wanted to read the room and go off of that, and he read the room perfectly. He talked. He put over Triple H. He put over his children, his son and his daughter. He put over all the men that he managed. He put over ECW. He even told Stephanie McMahon that she, quote, married the wrong Paul, by the way.
It takes a
Which
lot
I
of
thought,
balls.
yeah, well, she's married to Paul Levesque,
Yeah,
but
no,
he
I know,
says
I know.
she married the wrong Paul because she was out there with an ECW hat on.
Right.
And I was like, okay, yeah. So it was a really good speech, and it was great. And congratulations to all the inductees in the Hall of Fame: Paul Heyman, Bull Nakano, who I got to watch when I first started watching wrestling in the early '90s. She was one of the pioneers of women's wrestling coming out of Japan. The U.S. Express, Mike Rotunda, and Barry Windham. Um, the family, we talked about this on the podcast. The family actually requested that Bray Wyatt not be inducted this year because his death was so recent that it would have been too raw to have him inducted as an inductee. They want to at least give it a year, even though they did do a tribute to him with everybody putting their phones up with the lights on as the Fireflies, which was awesome. Um, Muhammad Ali, his widow, his wife, presented The Rock with the People's Championship trophy, championship belt. Thunderbolt Patterson came out and was a preacher. He's a current preacher, and he went out and preached, which was awesome. I mean, this Hall of Fame was really, really good. It was so many different dynamics in it, and it was really great to see and to watch. And one other thing I want to say before we close this out, because I think it's time to close this out, the Bray Wyatt documentary just came out last week, Being Immortal. I highly suggest watching it, but especially if you are a wrestling fan who has followed Bray's career, watch it with someone because it will make you emotional. Sip and I made the mistake of watching it on our own, and I got really emotional, especially towards the tail end when they talked about the day that he passed, because then it brought up memories of my father passing, and I was inconsolable. I was inconsolable, and Sip was as well. So if you watch Bray Wyatt's documentary on Peacock, Being Immortal, please watch it with someone else because it will make you emotional, because you're going to see a man who was one of the most creative minds in all of professional wrestling go through the highs and lows of being a professional wrestler. And then you're going to see the family that was left behind on the day that he suddenly passed away, and it's going to get at your emotions. If you don't get emotional even at that part, then I don't think you're human. I'm just going to be completely honest. I don't think you're human, because anybody who's a human will get emotional seeing the family describe that very day that no one thought would come so soon. So definitely go and watch it. I highly recommend watching it. One of our followers on Twitch asked us about it, and we said we would watch it. I watched it the day before, the day that we recorded the season finale podcast, and I used it as my final thoughts to talk about my thoughts on it. And it was really riveting, and I highly suggest, if you're a wrestling fan, to watch it because it's really, really good.
Nice. So I have a question. Where do you think you see it going from here? Now, we've got Cody as a champion. Um, I guess a little bit of a surprise with the Money in the Bank, being cashed in. All of the people kind of saw that happening. Do you think, the rivalry goes on, with, McIntyre? Do you think? Who do you think Cody beefs with next? What are your projections for wrestling going forward?
Well, normally I watch Raw the next day because I record it, but because it was the Raw after Mania, I actually watched it live while we were sitting here. Cody's next destination looks to be The Rock, because The Rock says you finished your story with Roman, but our story just begun.
Hmm.
So it looks like it's going that direction, though not immediately, because he said he's got to go away for a while. There's The Rock, because The Rock's a busy man. Drew McIntyre's path is CM Punk, because Punk cost him, in his mind, because that's the storyline they're going to go with. There's no way they can't go with that storyline. That Punk cost him the World Heavyweight Championship, even though he went to Punk's face and got in his face, but Punk retaliated, leading to Damian Priest cashing in and winning the championship. But then CM Punk tonight, and this is a spoiler for anybody who hasn't watched yet, Punk cost Drew McIntyre a chance to become number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. He lost to Jey Uso tonight. So that's going to continue to further that storyline between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, because they already had a story starting uh, prior to the Royal Rumble, and then Drew uh, actually injured him and then made fun of him getting injured. So they already had a story there, but now they've added another couple of layers to it. So you have that going for you. So it looks like there are some stories that are going forward that should be very, very intriguing. Um, R-Truth. One thing I didn't mention was R-Truth finally got his first win at WrestleMania, winning the Raw Tag Team
I love that it's
Championship
with the
instead of The
Miz.
Miz.
I used to love the Miz back in like the world Road Rules. Like I used to watch him on all that shit back in the day, and I always thought I didn't believe that he would become a real wrestler. You know what I mean? I thought that he was just going to be one of those, heels or characters that, that you see all the time in wrestling that they just come in and do a couple of spots here and there, but they're really kind of the guy that other people beat up on, you know? Like I didn't expect him to have the run through WWE in his history that he's had now. But I love the fact that they actually really use him and utilize him in the same way. I know that some people love and hate Logan Paul, and I thought of him in a similar fashion. I still find it slightly unbelievable that he could beat the two of them. But it is he's the next champion that I think I want gone. But he did such a good job with his heel persona. And it's just so interesting that to have these champions that are heels, and how that affects the fans' reaction to them.
So with the Miz, see, the Miz came in and got absolutely bullied in the locker room. Like JBL actually kicked him out the locker room. He had to change out in the hallway. He went from that to now being one of the top guys in the company. And he's gone his entire career without really suffering a serious injury. He's been consistent. He's been better as a heel than a face, though. Tonight, he actually teamed with one of the guys that he was a rival against, which was John Cena in a six-man, and actually did John Cena's five knuckle shuffle and AA to win the matchup against the Judgment Day. So Miz is someone who can play both babyface and heel, but he's much better as a heel than he is as a babyface, but he can still play the babyface role. Now, for Logan Paul, the one thing about Logan Paul is that he's an athlete. He's an athlete. Yes, a lot of people still find him reprehensible because of what he did a few years ago, going into that forest in Japan and filming that image that he filmed and things of that nature. Yes, he's reprehensible for that. There are a lot of people who still don't forgive him for that. But this man came into a world like this and took to it like a duck in water and has been consistent. He has been focused and he has been absolutely passionate about it. And so that's one of the reasons why I respect what he's done. Do I like Logan Paul? That's up for debate. But do I respect his efforts and what he's done in the short time he's been in wrestling? Yes, I respect it because there are a lot of celebrities who have come into wrestling and have kind of been laissez-faire about it, whatever, whatever. And then they end up putting on poor performances that turn you off from wrestling. But Logan Paul has taken to this so well that you have no choice. You have to respect what he's doing. You don't have to like the guy at all, but you have to respect what he's doing because he's out there putting on great matches. That match he put on Sunday night in that triple threat against two certified veterans and two certified Hall of Famers was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I I loved all the cameos. I loved all the action. I really think that they did. The one thing I thought was kind of interesting was the fans night one, and I know that it's an outdoor arena. It's a hard one to sell. It seemed like the fans got more into night two than they were in
There's
night
a
one.
reason for that. There's a reason for that. Even Triple H acknowledged this during the press conference after WrestleMania Sunday. Saturday it was cold. It was a little colder than it was Sunday. Saturday it was a real feel in the 40s, and as the night went on, it just got lower and lower. So that's why the crowd wasn't really into it. But Sunday it was a little bit warmer, so the crowd was a lot more into it because it was a little bit warmer. Yeah, it got into the 40s real feel as the night progressed, but it was like much later in the night where it's like three matches left. And they were still kind of at that point, adrenaline starts to take over and you start to not feel the cold. at that point because your adrenaline's pumping and everything like that. Whereas Saturday night it was quite chilly at the start and it stayed that way, so it was kind of hard to get into it. And so that's one of the reasons why the crowd on night one wasn't as energetic as night two, because it was already like in the low 50s and it was upper 40s real feel at the start of the event, and it stayed that way most of the night. It just got lower as the night progressed, whereas on night two it was in the 60s with a it was in the low 60s with a real feel of the upper 50s at the start, and it only got into the real feel of the upper 40s towards the last two or three matches. So by
I have a
that time,
question.
they're already heat up.
I know that you and Sith talk about ring time and match times and stuff like that. I know that in the first night, people complained that there was an awful lot of talking and not a whole lot of wrestling. And from a timing point of view, the matches were good, but some felt that they were quick. In the second night, were the matches? I know there was less matches. Were they longer than they were in the first night, or were they about the same?
Um, so I think that night one, the only match that was sub 10 minutes was the 6-woman tag match, because of the fact that I think that Jay Cargill is still new to the business. She only debuted in 2021. So she's only 3 years into the business. And now she's trying to go from an environment like AEW where they don't overproduce things to an environment like WWE where they produce things to the letter, and she's trying to learn that system. And so, she had to be carried for quite a bit in that 6-woman tag match, which they won. But that was the shortest match of the night because it was under 10 minutes. Every match on night one was over 10 minutes. And I think that was the same for night two, was every match was over 10 minutes. I have to go. I'll go back and look at
I'm
the
surprised.
match
It
times.
seems like pretty long. So I'm surprised that I saw that reaction online as some people thought that it wasn't more, but it doesn't. That seems about on par for what I've seen in the past.
Here's my thing is that everybody complains about matches being too short, but my thing is like this is that if a match goes too long, they take too long to get to the finish, and then the storytelling just goes all over the place and it doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So if a match is going to go long, it has to make sense to go long. Otherwise, it just becomes mundane and you're just sitting there like, can we finish this already? Can we get to the next match? And then you lose the crowd, because this is a crowd. And one of our other supporters, the mayor, shout out to the mayor, says that this generation of wrestling fans are microwave fans. They want it quick, fast, and in a hurry, right?
They want
And
the
so
clip that they can consume on social media. Like it's
yeah, that's what they want. And so having these long ass matches, see, that's why a lot of these wrestling fans don't watch, promotions like AEW or watch promotions like TNA Wrestling or MLW or New Japan, because they have long matches. Hell, the New Japan, there was a match, I forget when it was, that went 45 minutes. Okay, and I'm sure there would be a lot of wrestling fans who are casual who would probably been tuned out after 10 minutes. But a 45-minute wrestling match told a great story and it was a great match. But this generation, they don't want 45-minute matches. They want short bangers.
yeah.
That's all it is.
I think we should probably wrap it up here. I know that you're taking off this week, right? And you're coming back the next week. Is that,
Mm-hmm.
that right? Yeah. So, but I appreciate you breaking down. This is kind of the first, place that people can get your initial thoughts. But I know that when you get around to doing the podcast, you'll break down all the different matches, and there's so much to break down. And if people want the more immediate breakdown of all of those, you can now go back and check the VODs. I'm super happy are back up now. And so that is great that people can go check those out. And you'll actually find that a lot of people, especially because we do a lot of shows at night and things like that, I tend to get a lot of my views actually on the replays. And I think you'll find that as well. And also just a great example if people want to see what you're doing, but they don't see it live. It gives them an opportunity to see you and Sith live which is obviously different than an audio podcast and just hearing you guys. So I'm excited for this new chapter in the No Spots podcast, the sixth season. And it's our ninth season here. This has been episode one. Next week, if people want to know what we're talking about, we are doing a big deep dive on the Capitals. It'll be sort of the make or break podcast on whether or not they're going to make the playoffs or not. And we will have a live game versus the Boston Bruins, which if they win two out of the three, or ideally all three of them this week, it sets them up where that game will kind of be another make or break to get in. I think all the games at this point are. And so that'll be an exciting matchup to watch
Yeah,
live.
I was gonna ask you, how close are they to the playoffs?
Right now, we did talk about this a little bit more in the first hour, but if anyone missed that, it's really close. So the standings as it is, the final Metropolitan, so three teams in each division get in, and then there's two wild cards. So that's how you get eight. So in the Metropolitan division, the leaders are the Rangers, followed by Carolina. And then the Islanders have surged in the standings thanks to a 4-game win streak, and they find themselves with 85 points. Detroit is in the second wild card spot. They have 84 points. And then if you look down the line, Pittsburgh has 84, Washington has 83, Philadelphia has 83. So we're talking about the difference between the what you would think of as the sixth seed and the ninth seed right now is a difference of 1 point.
Wow.
So it really, that's why tomorrow's game against Detroit, who's currently in that wild card 2 spot with 84, we're only 1 point behind them, becomes so pivotal. So that game tomorrow is, basically, if you lose that game, I don't see it. There is no path to make it in my mind. So you have to win that one. But you really kind of have to win all of them at this point because they had a lot of games in hand and they lost all of them. So that doesn't really help. It's frustrating because they had opportunities and they had opportunities to put Pittsburgh, stomp on their throat, knock them out for good. Didn't do it. Now Pittsburgh's ahead of them in the standings. So this is why you got to kill a team when you can. And so yeah, we're if we win out, we'll make it. If we don't, we probably won't. We have a chance, I think, to lose one and still make it. But it's very do or die. So we'll talk about that. The Defenders, the DC United. We'll talk a little bit of the Nats and the Orioles as well, and so a lot of things to break down. Again, UConn did win this game. I know we didn't talk about it a lot, and they're now back-to-back champions in that. So congratulations to you, champ, in your bracket. And in our bracket, that means our good friend Dujanay Bland won the bracket. And I love how somebody whose name is College Basketball Sucks got second place in my tournament, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's Brian Brennan. So it's my guess on that one. So, yeah, it was a fun tournament. I know we talked with Gil for a little bit about the women's side of it. I think that was an even more exciting tournament than the men's side this year. I was excited for all the notoriety that they got over there, and lots of fun stuff to be coming up. I am going to end the audio podcast here on Facebook, and then we will raid out in just a second over on Twitch. But I thank everybody again. Follow me on social media. Robbie G _ SportsOTHP on Instagram for all the latest, including vlogs of my family and scuba videos and other fun concert stuff. I did go to an AJR concert yesterday. I plan to make a video at some point about that, but it might be in a week or two just because I've got so many projects I'm working on right now. But lots of fun stuff over there if you want to see sort of the family side of me and other things. My YouTube channel, youtube.com/Robbie Gross, all one word. You can catch all of our VODs. I'm going to split this into three. I think I'll do a Caps one, a DC Sports one, and then a WrestleMania one. This week you can catch all those up there. including the vlog I did of the trip to Texas. That was a lot of fun as well over Easter. And yeah, tons of great content. All of our previous streams are up there as well. And yeah, make sure you like and subscribe on all those and on our Facebook page as well. I'm excited for season 9 to be here. The plan is we will continue to talk season 9 through this month, April and May, and then in June we'll take off for the summer. And obviously, if the Caps make the playoffs and as they in advance, the farther that they and the defenders make would be how far this show goes right into June. And if they're not in it, then I probably will take my break a little bit earlier. I will definitely take off. I like to do the pool stuff and the summer stuff and things like that. So, family is important, and so I highly recommend it. And that's why I let people take their time whenever they need it from this podcast. And but we will have the return of many different people. I know that Tim and Arun wanted to be here tonight. They couldn't. They were busy, but I'm sure we'll get them back on a podcast shortly as well. But thank you so much, Champ, for holding down the fort and being the round table with me. And it was fun talking so many different sports with you. And
Right.
definitely we'll talk more about all those except for not March Madness next week again. And I hope that you guys all have a wonderful week. And with that, I will end the audio podcast. This has been episode 336 of Sports on the Hill podcast, season 9, episode 1. And it was our season 9 premiere. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Gokigenyo. Sayonara.
I think we are out on that. And with that, I will look for a quick raid as it's already midnight. Um, but let's just take a quick look over here.
Why is it still showing that's still recording?
Oh, I'm recording because I always record separately on Zoom. It's just not streaming on Facebook. Just in case I ever want to grab like the before the podcast part or the end and clip it. I like to always keep it going there. Do. All right. I don't think I've ever rated Al Mal. He's pretty cool. He's a hip hop artist. He does freestyle. And he did this really great thing at the Eclipse earlier that I like. He's an Eagles fan, unfortunately, but I want to eventually get him on the show sometime to do a debate thing. It's just he normally does a show at the exact same time as us, which makes it tough for that. Let me see if I can we'll set the raid over to him.